All right. Hey guys, this is Minner speaking. My name is Alex, and I want to talk to you today about a subject that I think is very important because we all want to make the world a better place. We want to make our lives better. But one of the main problems that we can run into is that we're living in a fantasy. All right. People have these dreams of a utopia, literally nowhere they can never get to, and they're going to waste their time or even worse, break what they actually have in pursuit of something that they never can have, right? And one of the things I think that we can never really have is traditionalism in its fullest sense. You ever get the feeling like when you look at people who are trying to go back to tradition, they tend to be LARPing, right? They tend to be LARPing. And there's something missing in the essence of what they're doing. There's something missing in the heart of what they're doing, and they're kind of just acting and going through the motions and using the aesthetics. You see this a lot with new converts to Christianity, unfortunately, is that a lot of them don't understand what Christianity is at its core, but they grab onto all the aesthetics, all the thous and these and such, but they don't get the heart of it, right? It's take it on a case by case basis. I'm drawing a broad brush, but how can we actually be traditional? How can we grab from tradition? Because there is something good there, right? We want aspects of our past, community, men and women getting along, happy families with mom, dad, children, extended family, all that stuff. The problem is when we start trying to grab pieces from it, we're grabbing like an aspect from a culture that's gone, and we're trying to put it. Let's make an analogy of like an outfit, right? Imagine trying to go back and grab a top hat and just putting it on whatever you're wearing right now. It wouldn't really fit, right? It wouldn't match. It wouldn't make a lot of sense. This happens with every little aspect of a tradition. You kind of have to embody most, if not the whole thing. So we're going to talk about what the pitfalls are and how we can actually go back to tradition and bring something valuable to our own lives. Okay, so first off, what is a traditional life? A traditional life is the irrational loyalty to a way of living that is from the past, right? It's usually just from your father, right? There's one generation gap. It is from the past, right? But it's not that far in the past. You could talk to the person. And this is the main point, is can we have a traditional life? The answer is mostly no. And I'm sorry to say, like, the answer is mostly no. All that stuff is quite gone. And I'll use an analogy to make that clear. The way that we gain a tradition, in my opinion, is actually your childhood. So whatever your childhood is, that's your tradition, and there's no breaking from it. If I at the age of 30, not that I'm 30, I'm like 37 now. If I was at the age of 30 though, and I decided I want to become a samurai, I could never really become a samurai. You know what I'm saying? I could learn all the forms, I could learn how to speak, I could learn how to act like a samurai, but I'm not really in my essence a samurai. There's a whole childhood, a whole person there that has existed for 30 years and then is now wearing this outfit and doing these actions and doing, see what I'm saying? And the same thing goes for like a modern Englander trying to become like a Victorian. You were raised on video games and Gen X or whatever entertainment, MTV, all that stuff. That is who you are, and you can't really erase that. And once you are that thing, it's impossible to become anything else, in my opinion. That in a holistic sense, in a real sense, right? You could take you could take a modern baby and put it into an Amish commune or Ordung or whatever the heck they call it, and that child will become Amish. That fully, like that will happen, right? You could take a 30-year-old and put them in that same life, and they will never be really truly Amish, right? And the Japanese actually understand this, where they are very protective of the Japanese identity, and unless you are racially and culturally and through upbringing Japanese 100%, then you're not Japanese. Just straight up aren't. You'll be acting like it. Even Japanese people that come to the United States to work for a few years or go to school, when they go back to Japan, they're kind of considered an outsider. This is an extreme case, right? But they're very guarded with their tradition, all right? So how do we gain tradition? As I said, your childhood. Essentially, it is whatever you were given from your father. And this is where things start to break down, because almost nobody I know gains their entire being from their father. They gain their being from television, video games, their friends, their public school, maybe their mom, but very rarely do people gain their personality and everything that they are from their fathers. And when you do meet someone who does, like who has done it, like let's say their dad was an auto mechanic living in Appalachia, like off away from everybody else. Kid is homeschooled. He also learns how to be an auto mechanic from his dad. This kid's going to be very different from every other kid now, right? This is actually one of the reasons why homeschooling tends to get like looked at a certain way, is because the kids don't act like kids, they act like adults. This is what a tradition actually is. Usually what a tradition is children learning how to become their parents. All right. And they're going to start acting older. They're going to act I did this. Okay. So I had a traditional upbringing from my father, but it was not like an overbearing, all encompassing upbringing. I was raised in the tradition of I guess it dates back to like the sort of Victorian period in Indonesia, where we were doing the banking and the clerical work for the empires. British Empire, Dutch Empire, Japanese Empire, Chinese Empire, empires. But we were there keeping the books. We were keeping the balance, almost in like some sort of Taoistic exercise of making sure that everything comes out to zero in the end of the books. We did that, and I was raised to do that. So from the age of 8 years old all the way to now, even sometimes I'll go back and do accounting work with my dad. But really from 8 years old to 18, I was doing accounting work. And this is accounting for people and their taxes and also businesses. And this is what I would do on the weekends. And this is what I would do for like 5 hours on a Saturday with my dad. Like my dad was there, he was my supervisor. And I learned how he dealt with clients. I learned how he dealt with adversity. I learned how he dealt with uncertainty. I learned how to be my father. Right? This is what tradition is. Tradition is when you learn how to be your father. Sorry, I was just checking the time there. Tradition is when you learn how to be your parent. And no one is really a replacement for a parent except a dedicated mentor, like a master to an apprentice, right? Master to apprentice is the closest thing to a father-son relationship that you're going to get outside of a father-son relationship. This amount of dedication is very difficult. That's why the word bastard is an insult. Bastard essentially is what you're saying is you didn't have a father to teach you how to be a man. You are a nowhere person. The problem is that now modern people are, I'm sorry to say, this is going to sound really harsh, modern people are almost all bastards because their fathers were not really around, or the fathers were disinterested. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they were on deployment, something. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that it's your fault that you're a bastard, okay? A lot of people are bastards in this modern world where both parents work, and in this modern world where the father goes out of the house for employment. By the way, it's a really weird thing, don't you think, is that fathers have to go out of their house to gain employment. It didn't used to be this way. Only in the Industrial Revolution did you usually have a boss. Most people were self-employed on their farm, or they were an artisan, and all their children would learn from this. There's a cool video I've seen. I might have been in person, actually. You know what? I think it was in person. It's not a video. I was at this Amish market, and you saw young people, like yay high. They were just walking around like adults, like handling knives, processing stuff, putting stuff away, stocking the shelves in this Amish market. And this is what a person used to be. This is what everybody used to be. Everybody used to be useful. They used to be grounded. They used to be self-employed. They weren't dependent on the state. They weren't dependent on a boss, right? They were all individual landowning farmers, or they were artisans of some sort. And right now, everyone kind of has employment elsewhere, and it's a little bit of, I'm going to use a harsh word. It's a little bit of financial cuckoldry that our fathers cannot earn their own keep on their own merits without some boss above them, right? Like, your father is usually number one in your world. Like for me, my dad, he had a job, but he also like did stuff on the side that paid for everything as well. Like if he didn't have his day job, which he used just to get health insurance, he would have been just on his own working and doing just fine. Like he was number one. He was awesome. Like I love my dad, and my dad was a badass. And that's what I thought when I was a kid, because my dad interacted with other adults in a way that gave him respect. So I saw other adults showing him respect. That immediately earns the respect of your own children, especially your own boys. Like major behavioral cases notwithstanding, but like the fact that you respect your father and you understand his place in society, and you understand that his place is his place. Whenever somebody says like, oh, I lost my job at the factory, it's like, it wasn't your job though. You didn't create that job. I know you did it. I know it's a good thing you have that job, and I'm proud of you, and it's fantastic. But the thing is, it wasn't your job. Like that factory belongs to Henry Ford. Henry Ford, that was Henry Ford's job, and you were filling it. Like you were a servant in his house. And then when you see your father as a servant in someone else's house, it psychologically changes things. I think that's a lot of the reason why the media and culture is able to get away with denigrating fathers so much, is because a lot of fathers are dependent on some other man, essentially, right? I called it financial cuckoldry for a reason. They're dependent on some other man to put food on their own table. This is not normal. This was not typically normal. Like even old mine workers back in the day, I mean, this is not a great example, but this is the way they were paid. But they were paid technically on how much coal they got, right? So if they went into the mine and they got coal and they put it in the cart and it would get weighed, the company would sort of take their autonomy away by changing the environment of like what shops are available and all this other stuff, making a fake like coal town essentially, and ruling with an iron fist. Like these guys would have just been independent contractors, like independent miners, but they just sell to the coal company. That's a little closer to being normal. It's okay to be a miner or something like that, but it's like you see that you are fully dependent on someone else's operation. Like feasibly, the miner could actually just have a land claim and go and mine himself and then take it to the coal company on his own, but it's easier just to go through the company mine. I'm ranting and stuff, but the idea here is that if you want a traditional life, okay, so I'm going to get down to the subject of the matter here. How do we pull from tradition actually and use it to enrich ourselves? This is the part where we try stuff on. I used the analogy of putting on the top hat earlier. Do a little LARPing. Try some stuff out, but then make it your own and incorporate it into your life, and then pass that on to your children and pass that on to your community. And in that way, then it becomes a real tradition for them. The stuff that isn't a tradition for you can be a tradition for your children if you incorporate it into their upbringing, right? So for me, I do a lot of gardening. I do gardening for sustenance. I don't grow all the food, obviously, that I eat, but I grow quite a bit of what I like stuff that especially stuff I can't get elsewhere. I could have, if I had a child and I raised my child to do that gardening stuff, that would be part of their upbringing. Like that garden would be part of who they are. To me, it's just a thing that I do, but for him or her, it would be part of who they are during their formative years to do this gardening. And it would transcend, the meaning of it would transcend what I'm able to actually get out of it, right? Like for me, it's just a thing I do. It's a hobby. But they would find deeper meaning in it. And this is why we tend to look on our forefathers with such, with such reverence, is because a lot of the stuff that was kind of normal for them becomes very transcendent for us when we try it. Do try it and then pass it on, I guess is what I'm saying. Things that you think can improve your life. So if you want to be a little bit more targeted about which traditions you're going to reach back to, identify shortcomings in your own life, or identify read a story or read personal journals of people from the past and ask yourself, what would I want from them? How can I have a better life by being more like them? And we do this all the time, by the way, when we see other people in life. Like let's say they bought a Toyota Tacoma or something like that, and you're like, wow, this is a really nice truck. I kind of want that for myself. Same thing. Like you see something that you like, and you try it on yourself. You ask for a test drive in it or whatever. If you see something that you really enjoy that people in the past have done, you have to try it in earnest. It's a very kinetic thing, right? So if you really like the Dracula story that we read, in Dracula, everyone is journaling a ton. And I pointed out on the live stream of Dracula that this journaling was a way for them to introspect, because they actually would change their own minds upon reflection. And I was like, well, that's a really cool thing. They write about their day and they introspect and they learn from it. It's kind of another way it's a way of reliving the day twice. And, as a passive observer, so you can be more critical and, scrutinize what your behavior, your thoughts, how you comported yourself, all that stuff. That's a really cool thing. So you could say, I really like that. I want some of that for me. Let me incorporate that into my life and try it out. So first things first, steps, try to identify shortcomings in your own life, right? Things that you wish were better. Go and seek out things from the past that would address that or be tangentially related, okay? Try it out and then be critical of how that worked out. Like, is this for me? Is this not for me, right? We're all trying to piece together a life. No one showed us how. I mean, except for my dad, because he was awesome. But for most people in the West, all of the involuntary bastards, the inbas, you're piecing together this life that you really were denied. And I feel bad for everyone who lived without a strong father figure, because it means that you have to piece this together. But everybody is somebody else's bastard. Like, everybody could always have had a better childhood. Everyone could have always had better mentors. And in the end, you have to be the mentor for yourself. Do the things for yourself that your fathers maybe never did, couldn't do, or decided to leave to you. Sometimes our fathers will skip things so that we can learn them ourselves, because it's important. I think God does that for us quite a bit. So go through the exercise. You guys have a good one. Appreciate you. And I'll see you guys next time. All right? Peace.